Sometimes I just sit and marvel at how great God really is. I think of how He created the whole universe out of the breath of His mouth. How He said, "Let there be," and it was. How He created each and every physical feature, the hills, rivers, and lakes, and placed them in each of their places. How He said, "Let there be stars, and the moon, and the sun, and the other heavenly bodies," and all came to be. I marvel and get amazed at the power of God, His power that created man out of dust and a woman out of the man's rib. I get amazed when I think about how all these happened from just the breath of our Creator. Now God thought and saw it was good to create us, you and I. He saw the world as incomplete without our existence. He looked at all the people that already existed on earth before we were born and thought that they needed me and you to complement their lives. He saw that we would be a perfect gift to the universe. God knew you before you were born. He chose the perfect mother for you and placed you inside her womb. He had your life planned out before you were born. He knew what your life would be like before you took in the first breath of air in this world. He knows what will happen tomorrow because He is the one who created you, and your life is not hidden from Him. He hears everything and sees everything. Now, do you still doubt what God can do? Is there anything really that is impossible for God? Definitely not. Nothing, not even one, is impossible for God. Luke 137 says, "For with God, nothing is impossible. He can do all things. He can part the waters of a large sea, so that His children can pass through as on dry land. God can give an old woman a baby, despite her age. God can give sight to the blind, and He can heal the sick. God can produce water from a rock. God can make an axe to float on water. God can turn bitter water into sweet water. God can do a lot. The list is inexhaustible. What is it that you think God can't do? Let's look at the context in which this question was asked in the Bible. Genesis 1:8-14. Is anything too hard for the Lord? This question was asked during the time when Abraham and Sarah were promised a son by an angel of the Lord, and Sarah thought it was ridiculous and laughed because they were advanced in age. It seemed impossible to deliver a baby at the age Sarah was. Sarah's laughter was that of unbelief. But did the prophecy come to pass? Yes. And at the age of 100 for Abraham and 90 for Sarah, Isaac was born to them. What the Lord had said was fulfilled. Sarah was not the only one that doubted the capability of God. As we read in the Bible, many people found themselves in very hard situations, but the power of God made it possible. Possible for them to overcome. Think about the widow at Zarephath. She had a little flour and oil that could only make one meal for her and her son. And once it was finished, they would die. That was a hard situation, especially considering that the whole of Israel was under severe drought. Yet God intervened in that hard situation through Elijah. The little flour and oil multiplied such that the woman and her son never lacked. Let's take Joshua as another example. He was in the battlefield, fighting all day. And the day was progressing fast, and the battle was getting fierce. He was in a hard situation. He cried out to the Lord, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you moon over the valley of Ajalon." You Joshua 10:12. The Bible proceeds to say in verse 13, "So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself on its enemies. As it is written in the book of Joshua, the sun stopped in the middle of the sky and delayed going down about a full day." God stopped the sun so that He could give victory to the Israelites over the Amorites. What is it that He can't do for you? The Exodus was one journey in the Bible filled with many challenges. Read first was the Red Sea the Israelites had to cross. There was the scorching sun by day and biting cold at night. The people got hungry from the long walk they did. They got thirsty and cried out for water. They suffered from snake bites that were in the desert, and the many battles they had to fight to take possession of the promised land. Yet in all those hardships, the Lord gave them victory. When they thought that it was all over, and they would die, God rescued them. When they were ready to give up, the Lord provided a way for them. We live in a generation that has lost faith. There are times when we doubt what God can do. In these times, it is very easy to think miraculous healings only happen during the times of Jesus. Nowadays, they don't. We are discouraged, hopeless, and weighed down by life. We are without faith. Our situations have made us think that some things are beyond the power of God. But I want to change that false belief today. I want to affirm the words of the prophet Jeremiah in Jeremiah 3:17. Nothing is too hard for you. Indeed, there isn't. God is capable of anything and everything. There is no prayer that is too hard for him to answer. I have already mentioned the story in the Bible where God answered a prayer that humanly seemed impossible, stopping the sun from going down. Hannah was sad to be barren, but when she prayed to God with passion, God opened her womb and gave her a son, Samuel. Elijah was in a hard situation on the mountain of Carmel. He was supposed to prove to the whole of Israel and the Baal prophets that the God he served was the true God. He prayed for fire from heaven, and God answered him. Not only was the sacrifice burnt, but also the water he had poured in the trench surrounding it. You might have been praying, and no answer seems coming. Do not give up. Your prayer is not beyond the power of God. Do not quit praying. 6 times Elijah prayed for rains with no positive answer. 6 times Elijah sent out his servant Gehazi to the field to see if a cloud had appeared. And for 6 times, Gehazi saw no cloud. Yet on the 7th time, an answer came along. What Elijah had been praying for was answered. Hannah used to go up to the temple in Shiloh every year, and every time she prayed to God to give her a son. She did not give up. She knew that there was no prayer that was too hard for the Lord to answer. And one day, her answer was given. And Samuel was born. There is no situation that is too hard for God to change. Right now, you might think you have no way out of what you're facing. Right now, you might be in agony, thinking of how the circumstance is staying longer than you had thought. Right now, you might be giving up on faith because you think God has given up on you. You really need a job. You want a breakthrough in your financial life. Your ailing relative seems to be dying. You have prayed all you could. You have cried endless times to God. You are on the verge of breaking down and giving up. You have claimed your health in the most desperate of ways, but all seems to be in vain. I want to say to you today that there is no situation that the Lord cannot change. He is the Lord of seasons. He is above times and periods. He cannot be limited to human timings or calendars. Your situation is not too hard for him to change. Your answer is coming soon. Just hold on there. All the problems we face are within the control of God. None of them is too hard for him. He has a solution for all what we go through. If we take our problems to him, he will give us the solution we are looking for. We cannot manage it on our own. There is no person that is too hard for God to save. There is no person that is damaged beyond God's salvation. Before he became Paul, Saul was a strong persecutor of the early believers. He used to arrest them and send them to prison due to their belief in God. He never tolerated any meetings of the believers. But one day, he was arrested. On his way to Damascus, the light of the Lord fell on Saul, and he got saved. Since that day, he became a great apostle for Christ and a witness for the things that happened during the times of the early church. The thief that was crucified together with Jesus on Calvary received salvation just moments before he met his death. Now, did Jesus refuse to save him because all his life he had sinned? No, he simply told him, "Today you will be with me in paradise." There is no person that is undeserving of the mercy of Christ. That person that we think of as too damaged to receive the grace of Jesus, God could save him right away. Keep praying for them and telling them of a wonderful God in heaven. Let his son die so that we could receive salvation. God is not human that he should lie. Neither is he a son of man that he should change his mind. Numbers 23:19. Whatever he said will come to pass. It might not be today or tomorrow or the day after, but it will. The great floods 120 years before they happened. People forgot about the prophecy and got on with their normal lifestyles. They continued cultivating their vineyards, marrying, and getting their daughters married. Only Noah kept the words of the Lord at heart. Only he prepared for the floods and built the ark. And when the rains fell and the face of the earth was covered in water, only him and his family were saved. Any word written in the Bible is from God. It will be fulfilled. If he says in Matthew 2:122 that whatever we ask by faith we shall receive, then for sure we will. If he says in Jeremiah 3:333 that if we pray to him, he will show us great and unsearchable things, then he will do that. His promises are not too good to be true. They are not empty promises such as the world gives. They are true, and he will fulfill them.